Cedar Heights. Let's move along. Let's move quickly here. Cedar Heights.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jason Suvel, attorney for the applicant. I know I did an introduction on this case a few months ago. I'm happy to do that maybe after Mr. Garrett testifies a little bit, but I would like to, in just the interest of time, it's already late, just to jump into Mr. Garrett's testimony on this application.
Okay, but before you do that, Mr. Terrell, let's discuss who is here and if there's anyone that is representing other than, I guess, there were some people that...
Yeah, I know Mr. Kanowitz, who is an attorney and a land use attorney, is here, and he's representing himself as a homeowner as he does live within 200 feet.
And my wife.
Sorry, and his wife. Sorry.
we are not gonna go into that. Okay. He had to say it. I'm sure. No, I'm just kidding.
I know.
I'm married too. It's okay. Of course, that's not a problem. Okay, so let's yeah. Okay.
So, okay,
any other attorneys who are representing anyone or themselves?
I'm Peter Globus. I'm representing myself.
Peter Globus, and you're also an attorney?
I am not.
Oh, okay. But I was okay. That's fine. That's okay. You can also participate. Not a problem. And okay, okay, good. So let's move along.
Excuse.
Mr. Teeper is up.
Yes, Howard Tepper representing myself.
Who are you?
Howard Tepper.
Howard Tepper. Good evening, Mr. Tepper. Are you an attorney?
I am not.
Okay, not a problem. Everyone will have an opportunity. There is certainly in a preference if you're an attorney in terms of getting a chance to speak first when it comes to cross-examination and other matters, more because most attorneys are trained in asking questions in a legal way, and that may be help and speed up the process. Aside from that, everyone gets a chance to ask questions unless you're represented by an attorney. Then it is an attorney, so Mr. Globus or Mr. Tepper, you all will be able to ask questions when the time comes. Let's get some testimony on the record so you can cross-examine and ask questions and so on. Is that any questions with the procedure in that?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Of course, anytime. Nobody will be precluded from asking or participating in this process. You know, we're going to make it as fair and as friendly as possible. Mr. Terrell.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the first witness I have is Anthony Garrett, who's our project architect. I will be providing the following witnesses, though, during the course of the presentation. An architect, a traffic engineer, a site engineer, as well as a professional planner. So I guess we should swear in Mr. Garrett, and then we can go through the qualifications.
Mr. Garrett.
Garrett, let me just see if I can see you, sir. Ah, there you are. Anthony, good evening. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you offer this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And
what are you, Mr. Garrett? Is the planner or the architect?
No, I'm just the architect tonight, Mr. Meyer.
Okay, Mr. Garrett, that's fine. We'll take that as on its face. Let me share. Let me make sure we can share the screen in case you need it. Okay.
I just want to say that I happen to.
all righty, Mr. Garrett, just so we're sure, your license remains in full force and effect since we've seen you?
Yes, it does.
All righty, and can you advise, I know it's going to be on the screen in just a minute, as to the date of the plan and the revision date, if any, so we all know we're looking at the correct set of plans?
Okay, I would be glad to do that. So it is a 13-page set and various drawings. There are various dates on the drawings, but quickly I will recite the dates of the drawings. A100, which is our A001, I'm sorry, the title sheet, 31 August 2021.
I'm not going to do 13 different dates. What is
No.
the updated date of the plan set? The last revision date in the entire set.
31 August 2021.
That's 31. And if I might ask, Mr. Tuval, is this A1 or did we introduce engineering plans during the first go round?
We've done no affirmative testimony on this project other than my
Okay.
introduction at a prior meeting.
Okay, so we're going to call this A1. It's a 13-page plan set revised through August 31st, 2021. Cedar Heights Development prepared by Billow Garrett Group. And we have with us Mr. Garrett. Okay, excellent, sir.
All right, great. So Tony, if you could first get the board and the public oriented to the existing conditions of the site as well as the location of the site.
Okay. I'm sharing the screen. Hopefully everyone can see the screen, the drawing on the screen.
Yep, you're good.
Terrific. Well, thank you, board members. Given the time, I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. The subject property, 205 Cedar Lane, located on the north side of Cedar Lane, approximately about 250 feet east of Queen Anne Road. Just in by way of identifying it, there's the old Shell station on the corner of Queen Anne Road and Cedar Lane, and then the subject
This is the old
property.
Chase. The old
The old
location.
Chase Bank. Yep.
Very simple.
Okay, and we are located in the B2 zone. This is a half-acre site, slightly over a half acre, 22,100 square feet. Depth of the site is 221 feet. Lot width is 100 feet. 100 feet of frontage on Queen Anne, on Cedar Lane. To the north of the site, the zoning changes. You can see the small zoning map exhibit we have on our cover sheet. Goes to a residential zone to the north. We are proposing a multifamily residence. That is a conditional use in the zone, so it's technically a permitted use as long as you meet all the conditions. However, we do not meet all the conditions and we will be requiring a conditional use variance. So rather than going through an inordinate list of variances that apply, I'd like to just kind of jump into the plan if everybody's comfortable with that.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to start with EXSP 100. This is the existing conditions plan. Again, Cedar Lane is located to the bottom. So project north is to the top of the sheet. The residential properties are to the north of the site here. Currently, there's the old Chase Bank building. It is approximately, bear with me, it is approximately 3,079 square foot footprint. There's also a drive-through located on the west side for the drive-up tellers, which were there. And the site is accessed from Queen Anne Road along the east side through a curb cut. And then there are two additional curb cuts located to the west of the building, one servicing the drive-through tellers, and then one which was really servicing the parking, which is located at the north end of the site. There were 22 spaces on the north end of the site. Currently, there are 21 trees located on the site. Most of them are located in islands, in small islands in this parking area. And there are several trees along the east property line, some of which are on the adjacent properties or straddling the line, and we are proposing to maintain 5 of those trees. I will get into the landscaping in a little bit, but basically this is a 1-story masonry building, colonial in style. It currently projects within the required front yard setback for the B2 zone. We're raising the building in its entirety. The site is currently paved for the majority of the site. It is approximately over 87% impervious coverage or lot coverage on the site, 87.34%. At the proposal, we're actually slightly, very slightly, de minimisly reducing the amount of coverage, lot coverage on the site. However, I would point out that paving does extend within about 2.5 feet of that north property line or adjacent properties, residential properties to the north. The site is relatively flat from front to back, and there's a slight grade from west to east. But the variance in grade over the entire site is roughly 1.5 to 2 feet. There are retaining walls located along the east property line and the west property line. We are proposing to maintain the retaining wall along the west property line in its entirety. We'll repair any portions of it that may have failed. The retaining wall along the east property line, there's some failure in the northern end of that, and to accommodate our proposed parking layout, we propose to reconstruct that wall completely on our property. In fact, it's set slightly off the property line so that we should not impact any properties of the property to the east. The property to the east is a commercial development, an office building, and the property to the west, as I mentioned, is the old Shell station.
And Tony, just to reiterate,
When you say the old, 1 second, when you say the old Shell station, there's still a functioning gasoline station, right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Tony, I was just going to reiterate, within the 100-foot or 150-foot width of the lot, there's 3 curb cuts that exist within that span, correct?
Yes, the lot width is 100 feet, and there's a curb cut approximately 12 feet along the east side, and then 2 curb cuts to the west side. I'll zoom in a little bit if I can here. Let me get rid of that. Yes. Zoom in a little bit more here. And yes, within the west property line, there's the drive-through over here with 2 lanes that pull out through a curb cut, and then a separate curb cut immediately to the west of that. There's also a set of steps up to the front entry to the old bank building here, and a small patio area with the walk-up teller located at the west facade of the building. And as mentioned, there is a small basement underneath the building. Utilities enter the site at the east side. The site is served by water, gas, and electric. There's a small amount of storm drainage on the site. It's not adequate to serve the existing site. We are abandoning that. We've worked closely with Mr. Vince's office. I'm going to defer the testimony to Mr. Tubell, who had the direct contact with Mr. Vince. And I think we're 95% of the way there in terms of resolving the stormwater issues. So the site will have a new stormwater system installed on it.
And Tony, just to reiterate, and I think everybody knows if they're familiar with the area, but the Chase Bank building is closed, and it's been closed for approximately 2 years, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
at least 2 years.
Okay.
Okay.
How do you know that?
Because I started this job pre-pandemic.
Okay, fair enough.
Time flies when you're not having fun too. At any rate, I'm going to move along unless there are any other questions about the existing conditions on the site.
Go ahead, Mr. Terrell.
moving.
We're going to move into the proposed site plan now, or the
Yes.
architectural plan, excuse me.
Well, actually, the proposed site plan.
Okay.
We prepared this, our office, in conjunction with Mr. Tavell, prepared this drawing. We prepared the planimetrics of the site, and Mr. Tavell provided some of the technical expertise specifically on the drainage. But we kind of handled the layout of the site, the landscaping, the proposed lighting, which I'll get to. The client approached us and came to us and asked us to design a project for multifamily residential. Their target is to have 30 residential units. And we came up with a site plan that accommodates the programmatic requirements. And we tried to be fairly creative with providing adequate parking. on the site, which we actually exceed the required number of parking stalls on the site.
Unless you consider tandem parking a problem.
I'll get to
If you
that,
consider
Mr. Chairman.
tandem parking, excuse me, if you consider tandem parking a problem, you haven't resolved that issue to provide 59 spaces as required.
That's correct. We believe that the tandem parking does work for this proposed facility. And I'll get to that a little bit later in the testimony.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we'll also obviously have the traffic engineer go through parking as well.
I just want to add, in case there's any
Is
confusion.
Mr.
on the
Barter.
part- Yeah,
Mr.
I just want,
Barter,
in case there's any confusion on the part of the public, when Mr. Garrett says he worked with Mr. Tuvell on the drainage calculations and such, he's not talking about the attorney, Jason Tuvell, but rather the engineer, Harry Tuvell. So I just want to,
Yeah, I was gonna clarify that, Mr. Barta. Thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah. 'Cause
Well, Jason had something to say about the storm drainage as well, but he didn't design it.
yeah, he probably had something to say about the choice of the engineer, but that's a different story. But
Anyway,
yeah.
just to move things along, yes, to be clear, we worked with Harry Tavell, the civil engineer, who will be available later for additional testimony. So again, we're located in the B2 zone. The conditional use is permitted for multifamily residential, but we are directed to follow the requirements of the RM zone, the multifamily housing zone. And that has different bulk requirements than the B2 zone. So the zoning table, which is in the upper left, is really
I gotta interrupt you, Mr. Garrett, 1 second. Mr. Tuvell, are you offering Mr. Garrett as an architect?
No,
Or
purely
as
as an architect, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, because his plan says below Garrett Group, architect and planners. So
Right now,
it could maybe
Mr. Burgess
confuse-
will be providing the planning testimony in connection with this application.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
You only get me once this time, Mr. Meyer. Usually I have two hats on, but not this time.
Good.
wanted to
That's
have-
what I just wanted to have that very clear on the record. So there's
All right,
no.
I am honored.
So Tony,
I'm
why
honored
don't
to have
you,
Mr. Burgess to provide the planning testimony on this.
Tony, while you're going through the site plan, can you just zoom in a little bit more? I think it would be clearer for everyone to see.
I will, Jason, in a moment. I just wanted to touch upon the zoning issues that we are in the RM zone, which permits a three-story multifamily residential development. We are proposing 3 living levels above a 1 level of an entry and parking. So we do not meet that condition, and you'll hear testimony in support of the conditional use variance. Furthermore, the setbacks are somewhat different. Building height is different. The B2 zone actually allows buildings, I believe, 40. You can go 44 feet. However, we're not a B2. We're restricted to the 30 to the building height of 35 feet. So we are seeking a variance, and I will get to that I will get to the building height during my planning testimony. But just in way
You're
of,
saying, you're planning testimony. You're not planning.
oh, I apologize, Mr. Meyer.
Okay.
I will get to that in my architectural testimony.
Okay.
I apologize. It was a slip of the
Come
tongue.
on, listen, don't just testify. I mean, Mr. Tubell, you gotta direct your witness to testify. So far he hasn't said much the last 10 minutes other than what he will testify to. Direct the testimony so he testifies to what you want him to say, not what it's not a radio program. This is a testimony for an application we want to hear the details,
Right. And Jason, you guys are having a limited amount of time tonight. We are likely hearing somebody after you.
I understand.
All right. If we want to expend that time on chit chat, that's fine with me. But I would love if someone would get to the point blow up the zoning table, let us see what's going on and move on. That
couldn't
would
have
help
said it
me an
better
awful
myself.
lot. I got
Couldn't
2
have said
pages of notes that don't say anything.
Okay, so we can start with the zoning table, Jason, or do you want me to start with the plan?
Now, I want you to describe the proposed site plan and then go
Yeah.
through the elevations and go through the plan. So
Yep.
go ahead.
Okay, so what we're proposing is one curb cut off of Cedar Lane, eliminating the one to the east and the 2 to the west, and putting one in the middle of the building. We are proposing 4 at-grade parking spaces in front of the building. There's a controlled access gate that then will lead into the covered parking beneath the 3 floors of living level above. And there are a total of 62 parking spaces on site. And we are proposing 63 parking spaces on site. We're proposing 52 of them as tandem stalls and 11 as single stalls. We're providing
Hold on, 62, say those numbers again, please.
63 total, 52 tandem, and 11 non-tandem layout.
Okay, but the tandem spaces, you're counting them even though they don't meet the definition of a parking space, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay,
And how many handicap or spaces? I think there are 3 in the plans, right?
That's correct.
And you include those in the 60, in the 59 or whatever number you said you're having?
They're included in the 63. So we have a net add of 4 spaces beyond what's required. 59 spaces are required. We're proposing 63, including our handicap stalls.
And let me just be clear too. That's based on the residential site improvement standards, correct, Tony?
Yes,
Okay.
And they're not tandem, right? Of course, they cannot be tandem. The
ADA stalls, Mr. Chairman,
the
correct?
ADA stalls is 3 ADA is a part of the 11, so you only have 8 regular.
that's correct.
Okay.
Okay. The parking layout basically is a 2-way drive aisle down the middle of the parking layout, flanked by parking stalls to the east and west, proximate to the entry lobby over here, which is located at the southwest corner of the building. We have the handicap stalls located here, which would be in close proximity to enter the entrance lobby here. In addition to that, we have a walkway from the sidewalk along Cedar Lane to the front entry of the building, and some small landscaping beds located at the front yard as well. The stalls.
Did you ever look into how to increase non-tandem parking by making another layer of underground parking? Second layer
We did look at that. However, the ramps that are involved to get down to the level that we would need to really wiped out a number of parking stalls. So there was no net gain by pursuing that option.
you could eliminate the top floor too. I mean, the top floor is, you're only allowed three levels. You've got 4. And of course, it's that upper story of apartments that you could reduce your parking demand by eliminating those as well, couldn't you?
We could, certainly, but that was not what we were tasked with in terms of the program.
Right, but there's no architectural reason why you can't eliminate the top floor, is there?
Well, that's a little bit of a leading question. No, there's no architectural reason we can't do it, except we would not be fulfilling the programmatic requirements that we were given.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
same question could go also, if you would make a lower level parking with ramps, you could eliminate the tandem, but you could get the same amount of spaces, correct? So you would still get your 59 spaces at a minimum, even though you had these ramps to go down, let's say to a lower level. Isn't that correct?
I'm not ready to testify to that, Mr. Meyer, that it would be a zero-sum game to add the lower level without doing, further study on it.
But didn't you say that so what the testimony before that you said there was no net gain was just a guess, or was it real testimony? I don't understand. You just told me before that there was no real gain. So you must have made the calculations, correct?
We did a quick analysis, but I did not thoroughly design ramps to get down to a lower level.
So I ask you again, the statement you made before was just a professional
anecdotal analysis of the site.
So it's not really testimony that we can rely on.
Correct, and that's not what we're here proposing. We're not.
No,
proposing
I
to
understand
put-
what you're proposing, but my question still stands. So what part? I think we get the point here. That, I will ask you that if you're going to testify to something, please don't make any guesses, because it will cloud our the veracity and the clarity of your testimony as we go forward. So if there's something you don't know, don't give us something that is not based upon facts that you have actually looked into. So let me ask you this question again. Have you looked into doing a parking level below the first parking level as you have in your plans as presented?
We did not do a detailed study.
I
of a
didn't
lower
ask you
part.
for detail. Have you done any study with
Just to
respect
see
to a
the-
lower level of parking?
For this purpose, no.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So what we're proposing is a series of tandem stalls on the east side and on the a series of tandem stalls on the west side of the parking level at grade. It's minimally invasive to the site. We're not excavating tons of material and digging down, to put a subterranean parking level in here. There's also a small structure along the northwest corner quadrant of the building, which is an egress stair, as well as a utility room, which will function as our trash room for removal of the trash in lieu of having a dumpster on the site. This is very typical in this type of multifamily development where we'd have garbage chutes coming down into that area. In addition to that, there's a small utility space located at the southeast corner of the building, which would house our electric and utility services, water, etc. Gas enters the building at that location as well. And then at the southwest corner is a one-story lobby area with a stair tower and elevator. The elevator is sized to be a gurney acceptable elevator to get up to the upper floors of the building. And it is this stair tower and lobby area that is extending into the front yard setback. And will be requiring variance relief for the front yard setback. In addition to that, we have the breakdown of the units is such that we have one 3-bedroom unit. We have one bedroom unit. The 3-bedroom unit is to account for the requirements of the affordable housing set aside. And as is the 1-bedroom unit. And then the balance of the units, or 28 of the units, are 2-bedroom units. And the parking stalls in the controlled access parking will be assigned 2 spaces to the 2-bedroom units. We are not sure that the 2-bedroom units will utilize all those spaces. However, based upon RSI standards, we would assign the 2 tandem stalls to those 2-bedroom units, and as well as the 3-bedroom unit as well. So based upon the number of 2-bedroom units being 28 and assigning 56 of the parking stalls to those 2-bedroom units, we believe that the 52 tandem stalls that we're proposing will function properly for this multifamily development. It's tantamount to having a house with a driveway and a single car garage where you would have one car parked in a garage, and then you would have one car parked in the driveway. And you manage to deal with that in terms of the traffic flow. And I will defer the rest of the traffic testimony to the traffic engineer who will be coming up after my testimony.
Tony, while we're on the site plan, can you describe the landscaping that's being proposed at your office design?
Sure. I'm going to skip to the landscape plan. So I'm referring now to sheet LA 100. It's the landscape and lighting plan. Oops, I apologize for that. And what we're proposing is to maintain the 5 existing trees along the east property line. And we are proposing to put in a series of arborvitae adjoining the residential property. Currently, the pavement extends within 2 feet of the property line. We're pulling that back to at a minimum here where we have a hammerhead back out of the parking stalls. That's 8.3 feet, but for the majority, that's about 20 feet, 24 feet wide. The majority of the parking area, it's about 11 feet. So we have a grass area. We're proposing a fence and a series of arborvitaes along the north property line. There would be
Tony, while you're back there, just before you get into the rest of the landscaping, the setback of the building in the rear, what's that number?
The setback of the building is 25 feet, which is the required rear yard setback to the building. The parking actually extends beyond the footprint of the building. So the parking lot, it's open air parking. These 8 spots back here are actually open to the sky above. The building ends basically where I'm tracing over with my cursor right now, and you can kind of see the black dots here, which represent the building columns carrying the building. So the building setback is 25 feet, and we are increasing the buffer from the existing 2.3 feet up to 8.3 feet, wherein a 30-foot buffer is required. But we are lessening the nonconformity of that buffer area. The landscaping in this area comprises the 16 arborvitae along the north property line here. There are additional 8 arborvitae, 5 along the east property line at the front, and then 3 along the west property line. In addition to that, we have 12 boxwoods located along the sidewalk and screening the transformer, the electric transformer coming into the building. Lighting, because the building, the parking is covered. Basically, all the parking is underneath the building. We do have some high intensity levels inside the garage, 6.7 to 7 foot candles in some locations. But because the parking is concealed, the lighting is concealed within the perimeter of the building, we actually achieve 0 light at the north property line. And we're at around 0.3 to 0.5 along the east and west property lines. There is an area in the front of the building close to the curb cut along the property line. We do exceed the 0.5 foot candles at the property line. But again, this Cedar Lane is a commercial street, and the slight increase to the lighting levels in this area will really promote safety for that driveway in and out of the building.
And Tony, the lighting is LED and high energy efficient?
Yes, it is. And there's one wall sconce located on the front of the building, and that's got a shield, so it's night sky compliant. And these are energy efficient fixtures. And like I said, just by the architecture of the building, we're actually create our own cutoffs on the lighting.
Okay.
In the covered parking area.
And Tony, I might have misheard you. So if I did, I apologize. But just in terms of the unit breakdown, it's 4 1-bedrooms, 25 2-bedrooms, and the 1 3-bedroom affordable unit, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
No, he said he testified 1 3-bedroom, 28 2-bedrooms, and 1 1-bedroom.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make it clear what it was, that it's 4 1s, 25 2s, and 1 3, correct, Tony?
Yes, that is
Well-
correct.
So which one? I understand. So what did you testify to before?
I made a mistake, Mr. Meyer.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
So that's okay. So this is cleared up. So 1 3-bedroom, 4 1-bedrooms, and 25 2-bedrooms. Is that what we agree on now?
Yes,
Okay, good. 1. That's 30 units.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
Continue, Tony, I'm sorry.
okay. In terms of the site, I don't have a lot more to cover. Again, we're gonna have the traffic engineer testify to the circulation on the site. Mr. Tuvell will testify to the technical nature of the stormwater management.
So why don't we go through the floor plans for the board?
I think let's go before we go through the full plans. Let's ask the members of the members of the public if they members of the board if they have any questions to the testimony so far, so we can break it up because there's been so many changes and errors and I don't know what's going on here. Well, I know what's going on, but so we're clear on the testimony so far. Then maybe we can take it to the next step. Let's stop here halfway through. Let's have members of the board if they want to ask any questions. Then we have the attorneys, and then we have members of the public ask questions as to the testimony so far, and then we see how far we're gonna go, and maybe we'll have to carry the rest of it for next month. Let's ask members of the board. Do you have any questions of the testimony so far?
I do have a question. I'm Spatch
Well, you're not a
Tran.
member of the board. One
Yes.
second.
Oh, sorry.
Members of the board. Okay, hearing none. Okay, so let's take the attorneys. I'm sorry, let's take the attorneys first. Any, Mr. Kantovich, you wanted to have anything?
Yes, I would like to. Thank you. First of all, I'm going to voir dire Mr. Garrett. Mr. Garrett, do you have a CV or resume with you? Can you put it up on the screen?
We are beyond that. You should have raised
Excuse
that
me,
before.
Mr. Chairman, I'm entitled to voir dire the
Mr.
witness.
Kantovich.
Mr. Chairman, you did not afford me the opportunity to voir dire him on his experience and
Mr. Kantovich,
aptitude.
Mr.
Yes, sir.
Kantovich, tone it down a little bit, please.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
And
trying to speak into a microphone.
And please don't go and start to say, excuse me, and so forth. I know what I'm doing. I'm sure you know what you're doing too. Let's not get into a fight, but let's try to work it out. You have an issue with Mr. Garrett as his credentials? Okay, let me make it clear. In the future, I didn't afford you an opportunity, but you sat there, you didn't say a word. So
Because you continued to let him testify.
Listen, we have to be very careful about speaking one person at a time because we have Angie, the court reporter. She can only take down one person at a time. So I ask you to be very courteous, not to me, but to her. So let me set the ground rule in case you don't understand how the ground rules work here. And that is, if you have a problem or you want to say something when an expert is being introduced, please say, Mr. Meyer, I would like to say something, or can I have the floor for a second, and so on. And I'll give you the floor. It's not a problem. Just, let's try not to sandbag the proceeding here. So if you have an issue, I will grant you the issue, but let's do it before the testimony goes on in the future. Mr. Kantovich, you have an issue with Mr. Garrett being a licensed engineer?
No, sir.
A licensed architect, I'm sorry.
No, sir. I would like to simply voir dire him on his professional background. I don't have the pleasure of being familiar with Mr. Garrett, so I'm entitled to ask him what his professional background is, where he has worked, where he's been employed, what licenses he's held, where he has testified, and what experiences he has doing a multifamily development as an architect with tandem parking with other features that he has described. And if the recording will show, the video recording will show that when he began to to testify. I raised my hand so as not to verbally interrupt anybody, but was not recognized.
It is fine. I have no problem with that, please, but I cannot watch. Today, now we have 63 people on. I can't watch everybody's hand all the way through the entire 63 people sitting here. So you got to help me by saying something or making yourself known to me, and I will recognize you. It's not a problem. So I think, okay, okay, if you think that's a good way to cross-examine,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Sorry, before Mr. Kanowitz continues, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, I don't want Mr. Kanowitz to be prejudiced or precluded in any way. But I just have one suggestion or recommendation. If he wants to ask him a question about his credentials, I'm fine with that, as long as it's relevant. However, I do think it would be productive. I know you asked the board if they had questions of Mr. Garrett thus far in terms of his testimony, but I think it might be more productive if he finishes all his testimony on his plans, and then he can be cross-examined on the substance of his testimony one time. That's all I would ask.
Yeah, but I think at this point, Mr. Kantovich wanted to, and maybe I didn't recognize him because I didn't see that he wanted to be recognized. I want to give him certainly every opportunity to be fair to him as well. So I think if he wants to I guess I accepted him as a licensed architect, but if there's some questions about his experience, I would let him speak to that.
That's fine. I have no issue with proceeding on that. I would just, my request was, once that's concluded, if Mr. Garrett could just finish his test, that's all.
Okay, let's.
Jason, I don't know if you're reading between the lines, Jason. I don't think Mr. Garrett is finishing anything else. There is another application on. It seems like we have a little bit of a speed bump where we will now be voir diring. I hope it's relatively brief as a courtesy to the other applicant that is waited patiently. But I would bet that Mr. Garrett is not finishing a whole bunch more testimony tonight.
I'm betting with you, Mr. Madeo.
See, the chairman agrees, and we somehow figured that out together. So my suggestion is, if the objecting counsel would like to voir dire, it would be, I'm sure, greatly appreciated if it was relatively brief to what is clearly a qualified expert witness.
And gentlemen, thank you. And if you noticed, the first question I asked is, does he have a CV or resume that I could look at to make things go very quickly? If he has one and he makes that representation, I don't have to voir dire him based on what you each said. I have what I have. If I have to come back and ask some questions, fine. That's why I asked for the paper resume, to be able to scan it quickly. I'm not a rookie here, as you well know.
All right, let's go.
Appreciate it. Okay, very quickly. If you can provide a resume or a CV at the next hearing, I don't have to spend the time voir diring. I just want to know, what other instances have you designed residential buildings of this size and scope?
Yeah, I have no problem with that, and I have no problem providing you with a CV.
Thank
I've
you.
been licensed for 30 years in the state of New Jersey.
Just answer the question, Mr.
And
Garrett.
I've designed a dozen multifamily residential developments.
Okay, you'll provide a list to me. We don't have to waste the time. You'll provide a list of those dozen buildings as well, and those will include any tandem parking developments you've designed, sir?
Yes.
You'll provide that in paper. You can provide it to your counsel. Mr. Tuvell knows how to reach me. Thank you very much. Are you licensed? Do you have other licenses besides registered architect of the state of New Jersey?
I do hold a license as a professional planner in the state of New Jersey, but I will not be providing testimony in that in that profession.
Have you testified elsewhere as in front of boards as a planner, but not in this case?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and do you hold any other licenses besides planning and registered architect?
No.
Okay, those are current. All right. You've been qualified in many occasions before as an architect and as an expert in architecture and planning in both instances, sir?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm done with my voir dire. Is provided he provides what he said he'd provide, paper, and I expect that I will not have any further questions.
Listen, we are not. I'm not going into that circus. Try to get that over tonight. You ask him whatever you want. I'm not waiting and having testimony next time, and then you go back and what do him on his CV or whatever. Either I think Mr. Kantovich to help you. I'm not playing the game or delaying matters. Ask all your questions to your heart content now, so we can get that out of the way.
Fine.
I don't think
Identify for me each instance of multifamily development you've designed.
that he recalls as he sits here today. Yeah, ask that. Fantastic.
Okay, we currently have an application in Fort Lee. We currently have an application in Verona. I've done
Addresses, please. That's imprecise. Addresses, please.
2130 Center Avenue, 21-25 Grove Avenue, 128 Monroe Street in Boonton, 171 Locust Street in Bloomfield. I believe the address may not be 100%, but the development on Palisade Avenue in Teaneck. I'm doing this off the top of my head. We've done projects in Ridgefield with multifamily housing. I don't recall the address over there. Done multifamily housing in Hoboken. That was on 2nd Street. You want me to continue, Mr.?
Any of those tandem parking, sir?
The Bloomfield project had tandem parking, a significant amount of tandem parking. And the Verona project has tandem parking.
Verona, okay, but you can't give me the addresses for either of those right off your.
Yeah, no, 21-25 Grove Avenue in Verona, 171 Locust Avenue, I think it is in Bloomfield.
Okay.
Also did multifamily residential in Newark at 52 Elm Street. Multifamily residential in Newark at Route 21 Plaza.
Okay, fine.
Mr. Kantovich, any
I have no
other
further questions on voir dire. Thank you.
No.
But normally the voir dire on a professional as testifying as an expert in the field of whatever is to ascertain whether or not he can be an expert. Are you objecting to the fact that he was admitted as an expert and licensed in the field of architecture for this application?
No, I'm not. He said he's done these kinds of projects. I'm satisfied that he has expertise. We can judge the credibility, but I'm satisfied.
That's
that
a
he has
different
expertise.
issue. Credibility
Correct.
of his testimony is a totally different thing. And
Correct.
you've heard that tonight, what's going on here. So I'm sure you make your own impression of the testimony as it was brought forward. So
Correct.
that's a whole different issue. Okay.
Correct.
So that issue is now gone, and we don't have, and please next time, Mr. Kantovich, help me and say something so I can recognize you and we can get, things moving right along.
I
Okay.
apologize, Mr. Chair.
Not a problem. We are here to help each other. Everybody gets a fair chance.
Great.
Next thing is any questions. I really, Mr. Tobel, I don't think I can take any more testimony from Mr. Garrett here tonight. It is now 10:18. I'd like to get to the next, if you wanna, he can continue his testimony. That'll be next time on February 3rd, 2022, with no further notice to the public. If that would be satisfactory to you, Mr. Tobel?
Yes, I have that date saved. Tony, are you good that day as well?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need
And
any
Miss-
waivers, any issues that otherwise I'm sure. we could get
If you
that.
need a waiver, you have it.
Mr. Chairman, obviously, I will be able to cross-examine him on substance at that time when he concludes his testimony.
Of
Correct?
course.
Yes,
Then
thank you.
It's not even a question.
Thank you.
Okay.
And
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, will
Yes.
the public also be allowed to question him at that time?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you,
That
sir.
is the procedure.
Thank
First, again, the expert will testify based upon his with the examination that's called the direct examination of his attorney for the applicant. The expert will then testify. Then there'll be questions of members of the board, and then there'll be questions of members of who are attorneys. And then after that, anyone who is an interested party and appearing here at the zoning will have an opportunity, a zoning meeting will have an opportunity to ask questions or cross-examine the expert. And then all the experts of the planner and everybody else will also have an opportunity to do that. And then there will be a redirect, if that's so, the applicant so wish, to try to resurrect the testimony, whatever they want to do with the testimony, or redirect, they can be recross, and then hopefully we're done with that witness and we go to the next witness. So everybody will have plenty of opportunity. So now you can go home on this application, because we're going to close this application for tonight and move on to the next application.
All right, Mr.
And that is, you can go home and prepare all the questions you have so far for Mr. Garrett as to the testimony he has done so far tonight.
So Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, this is being adjourned to the zoning board meeting February 3rd, 7
Yes.
o'clock,
Soon
2022, no
thereafter.
further notice.
With no further notice to the public. Okay,
And
I'm going to move that. Mr. Veteran, second. Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Any opposing?
Aye.
And no opposing, right? Hearing none? So that is moved to February 3rd, 2022. And that brings us back, and thank you, everyone. That brings us back to 54 West Englewood Avenue. Mr. Capizzi, are you still with us?
Let me unmute myself. Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I hope you didn't fall asleep so far.
No, no.
You're back up.